Hi, I'm Jeremy Meredith, Education Solutions Director with Power School, and I'm here today with Bill Bass from Parkway Schools. And Bill, if you want to introduce yourself.
My name is Bill Bass. I'm an Innovation Coordinator for Instructional Technology, Information, Library Media, and Federal Programs in Parkway Schools.
So during the pandemic, we saw a rise in students' social and emotional needs, along with increased use of Edtech in the classroom out of necessity at the beginning, but then, just increased one-to-one devices and more platforms and tools to do the work of education. Our research for this year's report indicates that among school staff, the #1 challenge is keeping students on task. So what are some of the root causes of this challenge, and how can technology be better used to keep students engaged in learning?
I would say that this isn't a new problem. This is something that we've been dealing with for many, many years, and we talk about it all the time about how do we keep kids engaged? How do we continue to really excite them about their learning and really make it a meaningful learning experience for them? And I think that's really the key. So the problems that we're seeing right now are a byproduct of a time in our history where we didn't have the tools to engage kids like we once did, right? When they're sitting in front of us, we can cajole them, we can bribe them, we can do all the things we do, and then suddenly they were behind a computer screen. And so that engagement is still the same problem, it's just amplified. And so that amplification, what we have to do is address that with things that are going to be meaningful for our kids. It's not necessarily, the technology isn't going to solve our engagement issues, and neither is the adoption of any curriculum or content or SEL program or anything like that. It really is going to be meeting kids where they are, finding out what is going to be important to them so that they can continue to really focus on making that relevant connection. And I talk sometimes about how we want instruction to be ruthlessly relevant. We want it to be something that is not this contrived, kind of made up. Kids see through that immediately.
100%.
And so this engagement process, it really is about how we design our lessons, how we design and choose content in order to create an experience for kids that they can't have on their own. If they can learn anything all the time, if they can go to YouTube, they can go online, they can find their own courses. If they can learn anything, anywhere, anytime, our role then is to create learning experiences that they can't have on their own, and that require that social aspect to learning and bringing people together in order to struggle with and understand and conceptualize content and be able to transfer that into their own learning.
Right.
And that's really where I think our key comes in when we talk about our student engagement. It's not about any specific strategy, it's not about any specific tool, it's about how we design the learning experience. And I think that, and I'll say it again, going back, our learning experiences have to be ruthlessly relevant for our kids in order for them to be meaningful and in order for them to transfer those experiences to their own lives.
So Bill, our research found that EdTech priorities differ, unsurprisingly, at the school versus the district levels. But there are two key overlaps. More usable data, that's what EdTech leaders, CTOs, right, and teachers want in their PLCs. And better PD to help educators use technology for student learning. So how is your district addressing these two needs? Usable data, better PD, particularly in our age now, when there's more EdTech than ever. And it can be a little bit overwhelming. And what lessons have you learned and might share with us?
Well, I can say it's super overwhelming. We are in this time where we are, and we talk about it all the time in our school, is we're really data rich. But being able to understand and unpack and use that data in order to make decisions, instructional decisions that are going to impact our kids' lives, those are two very different things. And teachers, by and large, have not been trained as to how to actually use data. We're not data scientists. Like, we teach kids how to read. We don't spend our time like poring over data and trying to make inferences and things like that. And so as we have evolved as educators over time, and as we have more data that is coming to us, the things that we are continuing to focus on are the things that can make an impact right now. The things that are going to, and at a very rudimentary level, reading scores could be one of those, except that reading scores only tell part of the story, right? And so that data has to be incorporated with from multiple avenues to kind of paint the picture of that whole child, and bring everything together. And that is what technology is going to be able to help us to do, and is starting to be able to help us to do. We haven't captured that as an industry really well yet. And so we continue to try to make strides there. And you mentioned professional development. Professional learning is such a big part of being able to understand what is happening in like the minds of our kids and being able to respond to it. So the data helps us to understand what's going on, and the PD helps us to be able to respond to it. And so those two things have to play together. We have to be able to feed one into the other in order to actually make informed responses for what our kids actually need along the way. And so one of the things that we continue to think about in Parkway is how do we want personalized learning for our kids. So how do we make that happen for our teachers? How do we make it to be a thing that they are going to be able to take what they need at any given moment? And so we've created a personalized professional learning track for our teachers that really gives them the ability, and we honor their learning. We talk a lot in schools, when we talk about personalized learning, we talk a lot in schools about how we need to honor the learning that happens outside the classroom. Why can't we do that for teachers? And that becomes the key to that. So we want our kids, we recognize that our kids can learn anywhere. Our teachers learn anywhere too. And so we want to give our students we want to give our teachers the same affordances that we're trying to provide to our students. And so we've created this professional learning track where teachers can propose their own learning and create their own understanding, but recognizing that data piece is going to feed into the response. The response is done through that professional development. And the learning that teachers have is critical in order to respond when we have so many things coming at us all the time. We talk about behavioral issues. We talk about students that are not on grade level at this given point in time because of a variety of circumstances. We can blame all the things we want on the pandemic, right? But we've always had kids that were kind of behind. And so, the pandemic has provided us kind of this reason, but it hasn't necessarily helped us solve it. And so inside of our professional learning, that's where we can really make strides in helping our kids, because we're helping our teachers and we're modeling with our teachers the learning that they want to do in order to help their kids. Going back to the ruthlessly relevant point, why can't it be ruthlessly relevant for teachers as well? Every single day they come in and they have these elements that they need and they know they need, but they don't either have time or incentive or ability to really focus on that over time.
I love that. Flipping the script, applying what teachers are expected to do in the classroom for them, their own learning.
Right.
So many times in adult learning, we don't do that. We treat people like adults, as if they're not learners, as if something happened in the transition from childhood to being an adult. You just don't learn the same. And we need engaging, ruthlessly relevant experiences for adults to do the work of personalized learning.
100%.
You shared that personalized learning is often seen as extra work or supplemental to the core work of teaching and learning that schools do now. You said we need to better tell the story of personalized learning's positive impact on students. If we think about the key pieces of personalized learning, differentiated instruction, use of data, leveraging technology, student voice and choice. These are 4 things that educators kind of confirmed resonates with them, that makes sense as defining personalized learning. How can we better tell the story that the impact of personalized learning is
Mm-hmm.
making in students' lives and teachers' craft, you know?
Yeah.
How does this story tie into the typical measures of school performance, right? That
Yeah.
schools are often evaluated on, right? Like test scores.
Yeah, 100%. It doesn't. Um, it doesn't
That's not
actually.
good.
No, but that's because we're not telling the story very well right now. As we think about we have been down this personalized journey in Parkway for a number of years. And we have been thinking about it and trying to craft it and creating exemplar programs and trying to spread that out, doing professional development and helping that. But we as an industry are not telling the story all that well about the impact that personalized learning can have on our students. And really, I think that what that comes down to is that we haven't harnessed the power of storytelling in that realm. We haven't asked our students to tell their story. Because here's the thing, any educator across the planet, if you put a kid in front of them, they're down. Like it doesn't, they're excited to be able to hear the story from students. Every student panel, every conference I've been at, or any kind of professional learning, you put create a student panel, everybody's in. Everybody's excited about it. And that gives us the opportunity to really take and hear from students what the impact is on them. And I think about that a lot. And just in our own storytelling and the way that we broadcast our story to the world, we broadcast it in terms of test scores.
Right.
Rather than impact on students, because
Which
test
are
scores,
important, right?
they're important and they are a measure, but they're not the only measure.
Right.
And that's where I think if we can pull back the kind of the curtain, as it were, on how we actually impact kids by creating ruthlessly relevant experiences for them, by providing them with high quality digital and physical content, by preparing them not for a specific future, but for a future that is coming for them. And so I was just reading something the other day about how we need to look at where we want our kids to be through future glasses, not through today's glasses. And we continue to look and make our measures on what they know today as opposed to what they will be prepared to do in their futures.
And with the advent of AI, right? The recollection of facts and figures and rote memory is perhaps less important than it's ever been. So what you're talking about are like the skills built to become lifelong learners and navigate with skills, right?
Sure.
Sophisticated skills, navigate their own learning, right? Let's talk about student voice real quick.
Okay.
I know you're a huge advocate of
I
it.
am, yep.
Tell us how you've been thinking about that in terms of achieving this better story. I mean, yes, putting students at the center, but how do you do that work of achieving it in the classroom?
Sure.
I think that's a question mark that a lot of people like. Student voice and choice is a term, it's a buzzword.
Right.
What does it look like?
Well, I think what it ultimately looks like, and like you said, we have provided students with choice based on a choice of our choices as adults. Right. As educators, we've created this list. Here are your choices. It's not actually choice because it's a choice of our choices. And so one of the things that I think we can really do that helps to provide this structure is involve our students in the learning process, in the instructional process, not just in the end result. And you spoke of AI, that product is so much less important than the process now. And so we have to shift our mindset. It's skills, it's dispositions, it's understandings of how our world is being shaped by technology, by AI, by the world around us, and the events that continue to kind of bombard us on a daily basis. And part of that is, recovering from a pandemic. That's had tremendous impact. And so giving our students the opportunity to be part of the instructional process and help make decisions about not just what they learn, but how they learn it, goes beyond, it really is beyond pale when it comes to how we tell that story and how we broadcast that story beyond the four walls, getting our students involved in our community, getting our students involved online and telling their story online, being creators as well as consumers of information and media, and harnessing the power of story through our students' eyes, not through the filtered eyes of the adults that are in their space.
That's so powerful. Thanks. So we can't not talk about AI, right? It's changing everything. There's a lot of buzz around it. We found actually in this year's report that most educators are optimistic about the capabilities, possibilities of AI. There's a little bit of concern from classroom educators. So let's dig into this. District leaders were actually a little bit more optimistic about the value. So where do you, Bill, see AI delivering near-term value to teachers in the next year, the school year 23-24 and beyond? And how might it accelerate personalized learning?
So as a district person,
Yeah,
I am optimistic about it. I feel as though we are going to see dramatic shifts over the next 5 years, certainly. But I actually think that we are probably overestimating right now the impact that it's going to have on our classrooms. And we're probably underestimating what it's going to actually be like in 8 years and the ways that it's going to impact us. I personally don't think there is going to be a time that that is going to quote unquote replace teachers. I don't see AI doing that. I do see it as augmenting the classroom experience, as accelerating the world. So we have all the, AI. We can accelerate our intelligence with that, and not just, and we can augment our intelligence with that. So artificial intelligence is going to propel us forward by being able to analyze some of the data, the massive amounts of data that we get, be able to analyze that and potentially help us make decisions based on that. Now, those decisions have to be tempered with a good understanding of, we can't trust, blanket trust that, whatever the AI tells us is the thing we need to do.
And that's why it's so critical that you have that educator lens and the human at the center, right? To check it when it's making the wrong call.
100%, because we know as educators, we know our kids.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of most of the job, is just to know your kids. And be able to make decisions based on that. And so AI is not going to take away the fact that we know our kids, and it's certainly not going to know our kids better. What it's going to do is it's going to be able to provide us with information that allows us to make better decisions based on our knowledge of that individual kid. And really, I think it's going to kind of become this ubiquitous space where we don't even know that it's there. We talk about AI right now in terms of, it's this thing out there, but it's embedded in so many things that we don't actually even know we're using it most of the time.
Right. Like all these manifestations of it, right? Like the latest was large language learning models, right? Generative AI. But we have machine learning built into Netflix, right? The algorithm that drives what you want to watch next, right? We have data science that, predictive analytics. These are all AI. So we're all talking about this. I think it's risen to the top because of the generative AI,
Totally.
the power of generating new content based on a data set that exists. So I just want to reaffirm that we're already using this. This has
Right.
been around for 2 decades at least, but now with generative AI, we're thinking very differently about the possible implications and streamlining all the manual processes of like preparing a lesson,
Yeah.
right? Or what? What else comes to mind for you?
Well, and I mean the most, I think the most relevant is so I'm a recovering high school English teacher, right? I did that for many years, and in that process, I taught kids how to write, and so in that writing, there are so many kids that need that jump start, and I think that's one of the things that AI can provide. Now, it's not about cheating; it's about providing them with the language, the words, the experience that they don't necessarily have yet, that can kind of jumpstart them. And I do think it kind of levels the playing field to a certain extent. And it gives those kids that don't have their own, maybe they don't have the confidence, maybe they don't have the skill yet, but it can give them that impetus to move forward and kind of bolstered by this technology.
Right.
And I think about it a lot in my own work. If there was something that was going to make me more efficient, more effective, and better, and really, kind of craft my world, my Parkway School District expects me to use that.
Right. Yeah.
But then when we go into a classroom, we're like, oh no, you can't actually use that because then it's not your own understanding.
Yeah.
In circumstances where we're focusing on product. So if we focus on process, if we provide students with the ability to analyze their own process and be able to show their process along the way, we actually get to better understanding of what our kids need at any given moment in time in their own educational journey, and it gives them insight. So it's not just the teacher insight that we're going to gather from AI, it's going to be a student being able to say, oh, this is actually what I need next. This is the thing that is going to take me from here to here in my own understanding of whatever the concept is and whatever the content area.
Leapfrogging from like predictive analytics to the generative AI permutations of this technology, right?
100%. And we're going to move away from that generative AI conversation to more of I think, to more of an instructional AI conversation, where it's going to provide us with guidance and kind of as a consultant for us as educators. Here's what this kid might need. Now, you know that kid better than I do as a machine, right? But I'm going to, at this point, I can then make decisions based on the recommendations that I get from AI. And then at the same time, if I don't like that recommendation, I can ask for a new one.
Right.
And the AI doesn't care.
The decision is always in the hands of the human, right? But
Or it should be.
It should be,
Yep.
right? And it's just being, that teacher is being empowered through these different permutations of AI.
And that's one of the
that.
dangers, right?
Yeah.
Is that we right now, because we don't have enough experience with it,
Right.
we right now are worried that it's going to remove that human element out of the equation. And that's scary, not just from a job perspective, right? But from a what's best for kids perspective. And because we know our kids and we love our kids and we want them to have the best experience that they can possibly have while they're with us, because we only have that limited amount of time.
Yeah. Love that. Thanks, Bill.
You bet.